and this area has been kind of inundated with a lot of stormwater, and so it has a lot of flooding issues and also just a lot of excess phosphorus. So this one project we're going to look at takes out about 50 pounds of phosphorus per year. So it ends up being about 27 tons of algae once it kind of gets into the system and starts producing the little green buggers. So part of the project is a reuse, which is that top picture. That's a concrete vault, holds about 20,000 cubic feet, and we'll be able to water the green space of the field 4 times during the week at a 1-inch coverage. So there should be enough water there for hopefully a couple weeks of watering. We don't typically recommend that people put in 1 inch every time they water. Try to do it quarter inch, half inch a time. So there should be plenty of water in there. Once there's actually enough water in that reuse vault, it'll overflow into those large diameter pipes. Those are metal pipes perforated, and they're 10 feet diameter. So those can hold about 60,000 cubic feet, and this happens to be on a really nice vein of sand. So we get really good infiltration through this area. And yeah, this will do a lot of good water quality just to pull out all that excess water. This project also has a really cool component because it has, on this reuse vault, on the concrete, be able to show you where it is in the manhole, but there is going to be an automated system where it's going to be hooked up to NOAA, and every time this gets once it kind of hits a probability that there's going to be a rainfall event of a certain amount, it'll actually trip a switch within a bladder of this reuse vault, and it'll allow it to overflow into the infiltration chambers. So we'll be maximizing the amount of water that this thing can actually hold at any given time, because the reuse vault will be empty, and then by the time the bladder lets go, it'll have allowed the water to infiltrate through the system. So this is kind of a way to maximize, instead of always having a partially full vault. For the added cost, it gives us a little bit more water quality.
So it releases it before the rain happens?
Yep, so yeah, it's like depending on the volume, it'll kind of trigger it, say, a day or 2 ahead of time. And then, yeah, that'll give it plenty of time to go into this massive system to allow it to infiltrate. Yep, and then the way this is set up on the next page, it didn't show up very well in the print. But if you hold the picture so it's north, on the south side we have a dark line with a couple of arrows. That basically is tapped into like our main storm sewer line that runs from Dale Street down into the Upper Villa wetlands. And this is the one that carries, 250 acres worth of drainage. So at any given time we'll have enough water within the system to completely fill. And like I said, we'll go out there, we'll take a look at the rainwater harvesting. We'll be able to see a couple of manholes, be able to look down into it. And then same thing with the infiltration. There's a couple of manholes that we can look into just to see down into it. And then we'll also pop one of the manholes that has a pre-treatment structure. The pre-treatment structure is basically there to help take care of a lot of the floatables. It'll help take out some sediment, those pesky beer cans that make it down into our storm sewer and into the lakes. That'll help pull out a lot of those too. And yeah, you'll be able to kind of look at, an entire system underneath a ball field. So the pictures of the project, make sure you reference those when you're out there, because once we're there, it's gonna look like a big flat field again. But it's, in my and Dwayne's eye, this is one of the coolest projects, and I can't count the number of times that I saw Dwayne when I was out there taking a look at this. So it's if you have questions about it, let us know. It's this is really an exciting one.
What makes this so unique and special is on the ball field you see onto your right is that can we multi-purpose our space that have. This is kind of an old lake bed is my understanding. So the idea, I think the future is going to be harvesting stormwater rather than throwing it away and then pumping water that's treated from other systems for irrigation of green space. So this is really one of the first projects I've seen of multi-purpose in Minnesota, of having a ball field, a stormwater system. Most people never even know what's below that ball field of how the water is being treated.
The project took, well, it's technically not done. We still have some restoration work to do, but I believe they started basically November 1st, and they got done middle of December, roughly. So they got all this done in, a month and a half. So they had a really expedited timeline to help meet kind of the requirements of everybody in B-Dale. Everything behind me is considered the underground vault, which is the concrete picture on the top. And this is a side that'll hold about 20,000 cubic feet. These are 2 access manholes in between the main vault and then the underground infiltration area. So those big 10-foot diameter pipes are just to the west of us. And the 2 manholes are broken up. This one over here will be where they set up the pump to run all the irrigation. So this is our wet well. And then the other well over here, that'll be where our kind of automated system is. That'll kind of be able to release this vault and let it overflow into our underground vault or the underground infiltration area. A huge hole, from gravel up there basically to the edge of the grass line. This was all one big hole, and it was 15 feet deep, 20 feet deep in some areas as they were kind of excavating out to put in this huge system. So this is all reuse over here. We should have another manhole. Did we ever find one up there? That you can actually look down into the corrugated metal pipe. So this is our main outlet pipe that goes into Upper Villa. So this pipe takes 250 acres of drainage everywhere from, can't remember how far it goes over, but it comes all the way over to B and Dale here, up to 36. So all that water is coming this way, and it all travels through one pipe, goes down to that. And so what we did is we put in this extra set of piping that you're standing on top of now, that as water's coming into this, it's going to be first diverted to go into our other system, and then go down into the reuse. And once this all fills up with water, it basically backs it all the way up, so then water just kind of bypasses it here. Yeah, so this project we can use as kind of a nice preface for a lot of the other projects, because this one will be the shining example of it. Even when we get over to Evergreen, kind of like what Mark said about us doing reuse there, the soils aren't conducive to infiltration. The storm sewer pipe, we have to go underneath the sanitary, so it costs a lot more. Whereas this one, we got to tap into, one pipe. We didn't have anything else to really contend with. The sanitary sewer is a little bit farther to the south, but that was our biggest thing to kind of work around, other than relocating some lights and some electrical boxes. So this one is kind of the creme de la creme for projects. So when you look down, this is the big infiltration gallery. So these are 10-foot diameter pipes, the access riser. So there's 4 rows of this diameter pipe, basically from here, and stretches out to the west a little bit, or north a little bit.
So you ought to be very proud of being in Roseville, because this really is cutting edge technology. Again, trying to do more with less, even though it sounds like it costs $1 million, but it's doing more with less. Because if we don't treat the water where it falls, we're going to have to somehow clean it up in McCarran's. And if we can't get McCarran's, then it's Trout Brook, and then it's in the Mississippi River. Then I guess it's just the Gulf. But the point is trying to treat the pollutants, or whatever they are, from little surfaces like this and all that area up there, and doing something. And I really like the idea of stormwater harvest, as well as recharging the water system that we have here. We're sort of in a ravine that I'm quite convinced, if we go back 10,000 years, would have been very different than we see today with all development. A lake and then a river of some sort on its way to the Mississippi River that we labeled at some point Trout Brook, before we put the freeway on top of it, but and development all around. But nonetheless, this is really cutting edge technology, and I want to say thanks to the city of Roseville for making these kinds of efforts. Because you still have to initiate it, you attempt to get the money, and then implement the building of it.
Well,
and maintenance is an issue
and
always.
I think Capital Region deserves a lot of the credit for a lot of that groundwork.
You still have to have a willing city council and a willing city staff.